Good evening. No discussion about the future should be had until we ground it in the past. I like to start with a test. Now, don't panic, because it's not an IQ test, it's an age test. So I'm going to put up something from history, and you're going to put your hand up really quickly if you know what it is. Everyone ready? Okay. Does anyone know what that device is? Model? 2110. Year? Okay, it was a Nokia 5110, and it was 1998. This wasn't the first mobile phone, but it was the device that started the revolution for mobility. There were phones before this device, but this is the one that really gave us the ability to move. And some of you may remember the beautiful feeling of a tactile keyboard attached to a BlackBerry. And when the BlackBerry team took a keyboard and attached it to the mobile phone, it was at that moment that I thought I may never have to go to the office again. But for those of you who owned a BlackBerry, at the time it seemed like magic, because all of the complexity of connecting to the office and the information networks just happened. But the most significant shift in infrastructure was in 2007. And when Steve Jobs created the iPhone, it wasn't just the device that was probably the single most important moment in recent history. It was the application economy. It was the beginning of our ability to be able to build tools. We had access to infrastructure that allowed us to create on applications. I took this photo standing on the Consumer Electronics Show floor in Las Vegas when Kodak went Chapter 11 bankrupt. And I was reminded, as my daughter, my youngest, is finishing year 12, the most important thing that she had to take to her graduation with her was a film camera. As we've gone full circle in technology, Professor Joseph Schumpeter, what's called Schumpeter's Gale, was responsible for coining the term creative destruction. Old industries must die in order to give way to new ones. Peter Diamandis and Stephen Kotler created a model in the book Abundance, or The Future is Faster Than You Think. It talks about the shift from analog to digital. And many of the technologies that we are seeing today in the AI era, people are asking themselves the question, is AI a bubble? Is the technology real? The reality is we have seen this moment in history before. And Kotler has created a model for it. Those disruptive technologies move very quickly. And once they dematerialize and demonetize, just like everything in the application on your iPhone does today, whether it was a VHS movie that you used to get on a Saturday night to watch as a kid, or it's a GPS you used to get in a hire car, all of those things dematerialized. We have access to this technology today because in 1965, Gordon Moore, the co-founder of Intel, wrote a seminal white paper. The number of transistors on an integrated circuit would double every 18 to 24 months. He was right for 50 years. It's extraordinary that the capability that we have, compute continued to go up, and as Jevons paradox has proven, the more of a technology that we use, the more we produce, and the cost will continue to fall. At the same time, all of these devices were changing the way we worked. The internet itself was changing. Web 1, we wrote and posted things on bulletin boards. Web 2 was the first time that we started to interact with the internet. So whether it was Facebook or MySpace, you are able to write and receive information in return, but the internet wasn't designed for anonymity, to protect security. So as we move into the blockchain, Web 3 will solve many of the challenges that we've had since the internet was created. So we go from history to the present. This is the fourth generation of computing. So we had mainframe, client servers, the cloud over the course of the last decade, and now AI. This is the beginning of the fourth industrial revolution. So steam, electricity, the internet, and now AI. It's not the beginning. We are in it right now. We know we're in it because all of the key drivers are accelerating. In the last 2 years, we created more information than in all of history, and we will do that again every 2 years. The internet took 7 years to be the equivalent of what has happened in the last single year in artificial intelligence. And I get to do this every day and wake up and think about building infrastructure that supports the growth of artificial intelligence. And every day I think to myself, it can't get any crazier than it is today. And every day something amazing happens. I think the best way to think about it or look at that from an evidence perspective is to consider that in 2 months, OpenAI had 100 million users and all these other great applications that took time to build that level of usage. The thing that's really stunning is not only did they get 100 million, but then they got 400 million and 800 million. So when you hear a lot of questions today about whether AI is a bubble, whether there is questions around the economic rationale for investing in large-scale infrastructure, the evidence is in the user growth, and ultimately the revenue will come over time. So when we think about the future, my favourite phrase came from Bill Gates. We almost always overestimate what can be achieved in 1 year and underestimate what can be achieved in a decade. So the rate of change is massively accelerating. So that speeding up is happening because NVIDIA changed the fundamental base law of computing, which was Moore's law. So what's now Wang's law is the shift from CPUs to GPUs. We're now in the era of accelerated computing. And as you can see, the total amount of compute that's available to solve problems is going to be 10 to 100 times greater than any other point in time in history. Head of artificial intelligence at Google, Ray Kurzweil, basically said technology built by technology will drive an exponential rate of change. The reason things are speeding up is that we are using tools to build tools. Agentic workers will use those tools to build new technologies. So it's not only artificial intelligence that will go through an exponential rate of change, but all the associated industries that will benefit from those will get accelerated at the same time. So let's go all the way back in history to November 22, and I know exactly where Cliff and I were because we were together at the time looking at this ChatGPT product. And at the time I thought, it's magic. It's completely magic because I can't believe that you can ask the machine a question and get a reasoned response, or what seemed like a reasoned response. It feels like magic. And if this had been the worst than it would ever have been, I would have been pretty impressed. But think about where we are today. What is possible? If someone read 24 hours a day for their entire life, didn't eat, didn't sleep, didn't do anything else, you could read 8 billion words. But an AI can consume 8 trillion words in a single month. Knowledge will be universally commoditized. So today, if you use ChatGPT and you use the free version, that's great. But if you go all the way to the pro version and pay $200 a month, you have unlimited computing capacity, the equivalent of a PhD researcher. Now, if I said to you, you could hire a PhD student for $200 a month that doesn't need to sleep, doesn't need to eat, doesn't need to go home, you would probably call that illegal. So context awareness, a couple of things really quickly.
What does that part of the code do?
This code defines encryption and decryption functions. It seems to use AES-CBC encryption to encode and decode data based on a key and an initialization vector, IV.
People used to go to school for years to get an undergraduate degree in computer science. That knowledge is available today. That's the Google version. I have the Meta Glass. The new version of the Meta Glass does that in real time. So our ability to be able to synthesize information and do things that we couldn't do really is unlimited. And when you combine AI with robotics, now tell me, who doesn't want one of these doing their Don't worry about your dishwasher. We've all got a vacuum going around at home that's a robot. This has got a whole body. So the combination of AI and robotics means that significant working hours will come back to us from a creativity point of view. We will be able to do things that we were never able to do at any other point in time in history. I made this video in Las Vegas about 4 or 5 weeks ago. This is a Zoox. Amazon's been developing this product for a long time. No steering wheel, no pedals, no driver. That'll take you wherever you want to go. So the change in jobs will mean that people who used to do these roles will get to do new ones. Waymo is doing exactly the same thing, and they've done tens of millions of rides. So the future is already here, but it's not here locally right in front of us. Many of the key impediments to change are regulatory or policy. But one thing we know with absolute certainty is that that will change, and we will have access to take advantage of these opportunities. So what does it mean for us? Building the infrastructure of the AI era is the single most significant change in the history of technology, and we are alive to see it right now. It's amazing. The Internet of Things, when you combine the hundreds of submarine cables that are traversing the Earth, that are connecting every country. 5G and then moving to 6G technology will give us access in remote areas that we've never had before. And then when you think about the scale of companies like SpaceX for the Starlink infrastructure, it means that everybody in every country will have access to the internet. The technology in the AI era, driven by GPUs, is building artificial intelligence factories. That's what we do. It's a great privilege to be able to build those, because everything that we've seen in technology in the last 30 years, from mobility to the internet, the last decade in cloud, and what we are starting to experience today in artificial intelligence, means that everything is about to change. But it's not going to change in a negative way, because productivity, the opportunity to do things with that, will change the way we work. So from my point of view, this is the single most significant opportunity in history to improve productivity and change our lives. Thank you.